to YouTube. Hi, Chaz, we're live.
Hi, Meg, how are you?
I'm great, honey. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this today. It means the world to me.
Absolutely, it's a pleasure being here.
Well, you have literally, not to get weepy in the first 5 minutes, but you literally saved my life a couple of times. So I so appreciate your your healing capabilities. I appreciate your whole staff and what you do. So thank you.
Thank you very
All
much.
right. You bet. You bet.
It means a lot, as a practitioner. When you get that feedback, it does mean a lot. It makes all of the hours of study worth it.
Oh my gosh. So speaking of which, that's why we're going to do this today. We're going to do this for students, professional students, as I call them, and also, the didactics, the pedestrians that are out there doing it on their own. So, and I wanted to talk to you a lot today about kinesiology, the applied science of kinesiology. Yes. And I've got to tell you, when I started researching the history of it, I realized, really, Chaz, I am the history. Because I took my first class in kinesiology in 1970.
Wow.
There was not even a published workbook yet.
No.
That Touch for Health wasn't going to be published for 2 more years. It was literally coming off of a mimeograph, like literally. And the text didn't come out till 1975. And now look where we are now with kinesiology.
And when it was born from the works of Dr. George Goodhart, actually.
Yes.
A chiropractor discovered that the body displayed a strength or weakness according to stimulation, and he used that originally as a means of diagnosis to be able to figure out what the patient was experiencing, where the causes were from. And from that, he developed a map called applied kinesiology, which is not what we know of today as muscle testing. So muscle testing is a very common application that people are using to get a viable answer to any yes or no question.
Yes. So my students are going to have some homework on how to do that, and in our own private lives and rooms. What I do need to say right now is a disclaimer. After studying this for, oh my God, Chaz, 50 years, literally, I have to disclaim and say it does not work with lottery numbers or choosing husbands. I'm just saying, it's not.
That's funny you say that. That's great. Actually, it doesn't work with ego, with lottery numbers and husbands. So certainly you're talking about the energy that made the body, that runs through the body, and it knows the highest and best good. And if it is the highest and best good that you win the lottery, you can use that to discern truth versus falsehood or not truth. So certainly I always say to my students, if the ego wants it, it will find it some way, and it will even find it through the muscle test. So when one is doing kinesiology, it's important to know that we have to be absolutely clear, free of any investment into the outcome. So if we're using it for any form of self-gain, or we're using it for any form of attachment, then that's the ego doing that. And so that's not truly what's being muscle tested, because the energy comes down to the muscles from up, down, inside out. It comes from an innate intelligence. The body has in and of itself a innate intelligence. The power that made the body heals the body. And that's the same power that is muscle testing. So when you're using kinesiology,
I need to write that down. That made the body heals the body.
Yeah, the power that made the body heals the body. And it also is the same power that you can muscle test. So when you're using kinesiology, it's so I want to know, does the audience know what kinesiology is? Should we define that?
Oh, okay. Got some homework, but please go ahead and explain.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. So when we're looking at kinesiology and just kind of really defining it for a moment, what we're doing is we're looking at a way to be able to ask the body questions for a yes versus not yes answer. Okay. Rather than yes versus no, it's more of a yes versus a not yes. Either the energy is coming through as a powerful, resonating vibration as to what truth is, or anything that doesn't align with that power is inimical to the power and it's weak.
Okay.
So when one is doing muscle testing, there is one person playing the part of the practitioner, and the other person is playing the part of the patient. So one is holding, the patient is holding their arm out or their, another, like their leg or their arm or something. And one person's pushing down with all of his or her strength with 2 fingers down onto the arm to determine whether or not they are feeling a lock in strength with power, or if the person weakens without power. And
now,
so
is the practitioner touching the patient in any way, or thinking or touching a product or anything like that?
Okay, well, let's take it to that. So in order to determine what strength is, one needs to figure out, okay, so the practitioner says, okay, here's the body, it's strong versus not strong. And so what you do is, if you were to take something like something good for the body, say you take an organic apple and you put it in your mouth, and the patient puts the apple in their mouth, the practitioner with all of his or her might would push down the arm. And if the apple's good for the body, it's truthful, it's aligning itself with the highest and best good of the body, then the arm will stay up, it'll stay strong, it'll lock into place. Versus like, say someone were to take white refined processed sugar and put it in the mouth, then the likelihood, when we've done this a million times with testing, the likelihood of the patient who puts it in their mouth, the practitioner pushes their arm down, and the brain knows that what's in the mouth is an insult. It knows that what's in the mouth is inimical to life. It knows that what's in the mouth can cause disease or a burden or strife or toxin. So it doesn't prioritize the muscle as strength anymore. It prioritizes itself against the sugar and says, what's this? Is this going to damage me? Do I need to send blood supply here? Do I need to spit it out? Do I need to get it out of the body? What do I need to do in order to process it? So it prioritizes itself away from the muscle test and worries about the sugar. Therefore, when the practitioner pushes down the arm will go weak.
Okay.
So in other words, when one is introducing something into the body that is inimical, that is not good for the body or weakening to the body, it's displayed in the muscle test. So you can test foods of whether they're strong for you or not strong for you in accordance with muscle testing. So immediately it takes all of the guesswork out of what diet do I eat. Everybody's so worried about what diet and whether they need to do alkaline diet or blood type diet or ketone diet, or are they going to do a South Beach diet, or what do they need to do in order for their diet to match them? The truest way, in my opinion, to determine someone's diet is using kinesiology muscle testing and putting the foods into the field, into the body, and seeing what foods are strong and what foods are weak.
And will that change at all?
What do you mean? Will change? No, it won't change. If sugar is bad for the person, they'll weaken. If coffee is bad for the person, they'll weaken. So, for instance, if you were to take like a blood type diet, like a type A, I'm a type A, so. According to Dr. Diadamo's work, and you look at blood type diet, you're supposed to be able to have certain foods that are lined up that are supposed to be good for the body. Okay, well, you take some of those foods like coffee and things, you put it in my mouth, and I'll weaken on you. Okay, so it's actually doesn't match the body. So you want to be able to match the food, the vibration of the food needs to match the vibration of the person. They need to be in reports. That's what strength is. But you mentioned relationships. You should have muscle tested your relationships, whether they were strong or not. Yeah. It's true. So it's true, even more than food. So you can take this strength and weakness test and you can apply it, like you said, toward all sorts of things. You can apply it from foods to vitamin supplements. You can take a supplement and hold it next to your navel and determine whether or not that supplement is strong for the body or not strong. You can test other things too, besides food and supplements. You can test thoughts. You can say, okay, is thinking this the highest and best good, and see if it's strong for you. You can test where to go on vacation, what the strongest vacation is to take, and is Las Vegas better than going to, say, Cabo San Lucas, you know, and what would be stronger in mind and what strengthens the body. So you can apply it in all sorts of different ways. You could say, go ahead.
A question is, will that answer change on a day-to-day? So in other words, you and I have tested me a lot for homeopathics and herbs and things like that. And then when I no longer need that treatment, then my body does not hold strong. So we can retest, correct?
Certainly, everything is about context. So when you muscle test, one needs to determine what context we're doing. So if the context is for healing, like say somebody is trying to help someone through a headache process or something, and the practitioner determines that the headaches are coming from the upper cervicals being out of alignment through muscle testing. Okay. Well, therefore, the treatment would be realign the upper cervicals, okay? And that would be the treatment for the client. Another person may get headaches as a result of, say, for instance, a biochemical headache, which may include, say, a vitamin deficiency or nutrient deficiency or even a hangover. You know, I mean, you can get, you know, liver headaches and digestion headaches and other things too, but you can use muscle testing to determine not only the how, but the where. So you can find out where the headaches are coming from, whether they're coming from the upper cervicals or whether they're coming from the liver or gut, or whether they're coming from a food allergy or whether they're coming from a vitamin deficiency. So you can, yes, it'll change in accordance to what you're mapping to. So for instance, what you're talking about is not the diagnosis, you're talking about the treatment benefit. Okay, so it has in itself. So that's apples and oranges. You got two different things. So first, we will need to understand, like the header, is the importance of kinesiology and diagnosis. Now that is different than using kinesiology for treatment. Okay, so we have diagnosis, which means what we're trying to do, and unless you're a medical doctor, you actually cannot diagnose. So if you're a holistic practitioner, you cannot diagnose. So that title there, that needs to be written only for doctors, because no kinesiologist, unless you're a qualified medical doctor in this country, can actually diagnose. So I need to make sure that you say, okay. But it's you can say what the reflex test. Okay, so the arm reflex, the muscle testing reflex, the kinesiology reflex suggests this process is happening. So you need to understand that muscle testing is not a mean of diagnosis unless you're a medical doctor, because diagnosis is only for them. Okay. Otherwise,
what word did you just use? It wasn't.
I would use. You can use the reflex. So strength reflex suggests strength reflex.
So
liver.
What we're doing is trying to figure out the problem. That's, you know, not to use the MD word of diagnosis, but we're trying to figure out where diagnosis,
you say we find the cause of the health problem rather than merely treating its symptoms, or you're find where it's coming from.
Gotcha. I understand. I completely understand that.
With all pathology, and I'm not sure if I should go into all of this yet, but all pathology is broken down into, and all problems and all strife and all the human suffering that we go through is broken down into 4 broad areas, okay? 3 of the areas are physical areas, and 1 of the areas non-physical, okay? It's actually, everything's broken down in the 3 areas. It's structure, which means the spine and the nervous system, the muscles, the ligaments, the tendons, the way the organs fit together, the actual physical structure of the body. And so you can use kinesiology to dive into that and to determine, like, for instance, the headache, if it's structural, it's coming from the neck being out of alignment, okay? Or a whiplash can cause a headache, okay? Whereas another sect, the 4 areas, another area is biochemical. And that's what I was just talking about, whether it's a gallbladder headache or a liver headache or a bowel headache or a vitamin deficiency or a food allergy. All of those are under the biochemical heading. That would be a category, and you can muscle test for that.
Okay.
Then you can muscle test for, is the headache coming from the 3rd area, which are the emotions. The emotions are another area in the body that you dive in and you test. And so the emotions of the mind, which is the subconscious, the ego, the programming, or in the current state of emotional status, which has to do with flower essences and things like that. So those are for what we're going through is for stress reflex. Is it a stress headache? Are you getting a headache because of you're about ready to have a nervous breakdown? What's going on there? And then the last area that you test using kinesiology for the body is for the area of the non-physical. Now, the non-physical is broken down to everything that's invisible in the body. So the things that are invisible are things like acupuncture energy. We call it chi. Another aspect of the non-physical is the aura energy light body. And then the last aspect of that is the magnetic body. So as a true holistic practitioner, the practitioner strives to be holistic. So true holism doesn't mean just treat the non-physical. So an energy worker is not truly holistic, right? An acupuncture is not truly holistic. We have holistic means structure, chemistry, emotion, and the non-physical, okay? So a chiropractor himself or herself is not truly holistic. A nutritionist is not truly holistic. An emotional Bachler therapist is not truly holistic. It's one who does the whole person, in my opinion, is truly holistic. All of those are examples of specialized sections of holistic medicine, but in and of itself, a true holistic practitioner would be using kinesiology to determine where the cause is in any one of those areas. You see.
That is brilliant. That is brilliant. That's a book right there. That is a whole book right there. Seriously, that was
2 books I've written that thick. So
okay, there you go. There you go. So here's I mean, I can't believe it. We've been talking for almost 20 minutes live. So here's a question. You've had your practice for 23 years plus. And, a lot of times, so we want to talk to students of any kind right now, whether they're, checking out their own library books or actually going to school. So I'm wondering right now, what advice would you give to somebody starting out, or would you look back and think about your career? And is there anything you would have done differently at all?
Not really. For me, I use pain and suffering as a motivation for my compassion to others. So I don't think everyone needs to go through pain and suffering in order to be a good practitioner. So
we'll get to that story in part 2. We'll do that story in part 2. Because
talk to your higher self and have a good agreement that you don't need to use pain and suffering in it to motivate your learning curve. You don't need to use pain and suffering to motivate your actions to be a good, empathetic, and loving practitioner. I would say do it through grace and do it through certainly your commitment to help humanity. But in looking back as far as practitioner skills, I would say that the most important factor for myself and my practice as a practitioner, if I could do any one thing, it would be use kinesiology. It would be use muscle testing and learn it really well. And there are a lot of practitioners who do it, but they don't necessarily do it very well. I only see a couple of practitioners myself that I know that can do it very well. First, I teach classes in it, but the kinesiology in and of itself is certainly a art form, but it is also primarily a science too. So you have to kind of follow that format in a very logarithmic way so that you can step into yourself as a holistic practitioner. It's only available to 10% of the populace to be able to test efficiently anyway. So there are ways around that, but for most, first of all, you can't use your ego, so that automatically eliminates a good section of the populace. You can't lead the person because you love them so much, you want them to be well, so you're going to find their truth, right? So you can't lead them into a truth because you want them to have it. You have to be neutral. You have to be able to ask poignant questions the right way. And I would say pursue kinesiology with a really good teacher. That will give you all the answers that you need, verifiably true answers. Meg, I have to say, the first time in history, real quickly, I know we're running short on time, but first time in history for all of medicine and for all of mankind. It's the first time in history in the last 50 years for us as humans to discern truth versus falsehood. Kinesiology is the first time in all of history for mankind to discern truth versus falsehood. Now, what I mean by that is for the kings and queens, for their libraries, for all of the wars that were started from religion, for all of the medicine that went down the wrong road to find the right road, for all of the books that were proven to be right and then disproven later, for all of the medical studies, for all of the things, for all of medicine that is always in changing and evolving, all of that was disproven to bring us to where we are today. So for discernment for humans have a tough time discerning what truth versus false is. It's just not in the brain. Mm-hmm. So for the first time in history, what's available to actually have a verifiably testable answer, true versus weak, not true. The first time in history, the practitioner can determine what is truly the person's problem. Wow. What truly is the person's, what is inimical to their body, what's causing the problem, and truly what is the best therapy to strengthen them. So that leads us into that last one, which is, do we then use homeopathy? Do we then use chiropractic? Do we then use nutritional medicine? Do we then use acupuncture therapy, or energy work, or light body balance, or essential oil healing, or whatever it is? But we use kinesiology to determine not only the cause of the dysfunction, but what therapy is best to resolve that, to bring that person back to strength. Beautiful. My big quest is to help young practitioners to learn kinesiology would be the number one. That's the number one advice. Yeah. So here, please tell us two things: how to get in touch with you, and give us a quick rundown. You have a school. You have two different lengths of curriculum. How do we get in touch with you, and a little bit about your school, hon? Yeah, so we have a school. It's a very small private school at this time. I one-on-one my students, and we teach maybe 10 or 15 students at a time. It's a one evening a week class that we go about 4 hours once a week. And then I do require them to do some intern rounds with me. In other words, shadow me with patients in our healthcare practice. So the school is a year long, and it's called the Institute for Holistic Medicine. So
Nice.
it is online. Website is online. It's called www.instituteforholisticmedicine.com. That is kind of you can always call me or call the office. The office is Crossroads Health Center, and our phone number.
Okay, hang on. Crossroads Health Center. Crossroads
Health Center, yeah.
In Valley Center.
We're in Valley Center in San Diego, California. So it's Crossroads Holistic Health Center, and our phone number is 760-751-2208. I'm welcome to talk to anybody anytime about, their education, what they are looking to do, and if they're interested in the school, we can match them into that too.
That's fantastic. Yes, I can't thank you enough. I'm so glad we made this work. Thank you, hon. You're wonderful, and my best to your family. Okay.
Well, God bless you, Meg, and thank you for your mission and your work and what you're doing.
Thanks, Chaz. Thanks. I'll see you soon, hon.